It was my 62nd birthday today, but no one remembered. Not a single happy birthday. No card. Not even a smile. Everything felt the same, cold, quiet, and exhausting. Graham, my husband, was sitting in his usual chair, buried in the newspaper, as if today wasn't special at all. Olivia, Graham's daughter from his first marriage, had come over. She brought a tin of frozen lasagna, but she didn't even talk to me. Her attention was only on her father's medicines and schedule, as if I wasn't even there. I told myself, "It's okay, Mary, let it go. What difference does it make now?" But the truth is, it did make a difference. A lot. In the evening, we all sat down for dinner. The lasagna was still half frozen. Graham took one bite and said, "Too much salt." Olivia replied, "Mom, maybe it's time you stop cooking. Dad needs light meals now." It was the first time in months she had called me Mom, and even that came like this. I didn't say anything, just picked up the plates quietly and went into the kitchen. While washing the dishes, my eyes welled up, but the tears didn't fall. That night, after everyone went to bed, I walked toward the garage. They'd converted it into a small room now. They call it the annex. But really, it's just an old garage. A folding bed, a rusty heater, and a table lamp that flickers. Olivia had said, "Mom, why don't you stay here for a few days? Dad will rest better. You like peace anyway, and you're used to living simply." Used to it? I worked my whole life, managed case files, wrote judgments, understood the law. And now? My identity is just silence. I walked into that little room. It smelled strange, like old paint and damp corners. I turned off the light and lay down in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Then I heard voices from the other side of the wall. Graham's voice. "She's like a free nurse now. Cooks, gives meds, takes care of everything, and never complains. It's convenient." Then Olivia laughed. "Sometimes I think if she just quietly dies one day, there'll be no legal hassle." My hands began to tremble. My chest felt hollow. The cold from that garage wasn't as painful as those words. I wasn't a burden. I made this house a home. But now I was extra, unwanted, something to be set aside in the garage for everyone's comfort. But that night, lying in the dark, I made a decision. I won't just endure anymore. Sometimes justice comes slowly, but when it does, it brings light with it. When I first moved in with Graham, I thought it was a new beginning. The house was lovely, old brick walls, a small garden, and the soft smell of wood inside. But the moment I stepped in, I knew this house still belonged to his first wife. Her pictures were on the walls. Her handwritten recipes were in the kitchen drawers. And her favorite chair in the living room. No one was allowed to touch it. That chair. It always made me feel like I was sitting in someone else's place. Olivia, or Liv, as she calls herself, had made it clear the first day. "Mom decorated this house. We keep her memories alive here. Just try to be comfortable." I married Graham. I wasn't a guest. And yet, there was nothing of mine in that house, no photos, no curtains, not even my favorite pillow. It felt like I was living in a museum, where everything was there for remembrance, except me. One time we went to a wedding. A woman asked, "Who is she?" And Graham said, "She's my companion." Companion? Not wife, not friend, just a convenience? That word broke something in me, like I wasn't a part of his life, just a service. For pills, for tea, for timing. I went to bed early that night, but I couldn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling thinking, did I trade my dignity just to escape loneliness? In my old house, the one I sold after my first marriage, everything had my touch, my colors, my choices. Here, I can't even make tea the way I like it. Still, I kept telling myself, this is just age, Mary. Just adjust a little. At least someone's with you. Better than being alone, right? But now I know sometimes being alone is better than being disrespected. Because without respect, companionship feels like a burden. And that chair of a woman I never knew, has become the perfect symbol of my life. I sit in this house, but I have no seat of my own. That day, something inside me broke. I thought to myself, did I lose my identity just because I was afraid of being alone? In my first home, everything reflected me, the colors, the curtains, the mugs, even the pillow. Here, I couldn't even make a cup of tea the way I liked. Now I understand, without respect, Togetherness is just a burden. I had no place in this house. Just like that chair, always there but never truly mine. Morning came. I opened my eyes. My body felt heavy. The cold floor of the garage, the restlessness inside. I hadn't slept all night. I got up slowly and walked to the kitchen. Olivia was already there. Her face full of frustration. Without even looking at me, she said, "The tea's gone cold." I glanced at the cup half full. No sugar. I didn't respond, just picked up the dishes and placed them in the sink. I started making tea again when she said, "Dad needs his tea early in the morning. If you don't wake up on time, it gets difficult." Her words stung, but I stayed quiet. Graham was in his room. His mood didn't seem any better. I made his tea and gave it to him. He took it, didn't say thank you. The entire day I kept running behind him, gave him his medicines, took out a pressed shirt, prepared lunch. But all day long one thing was clear. No one cared that I was there. That evening, after Olivia went back to her room, I ate dinner alone. The house was silent. I sat there and I asked myself, am I just a helper now? Do I even matter anymore? I remembered my old home, how every corner had my touch, my choice, and here, all I had was this small garage room. I quietly went back, sat on the bed, just stared at the wall for a while. The night grew darker, but something inside me was starting to shift. I whispered to myself, that's enough, something needs to change. Next morning I woke up early. No alarm, but my eyes opened on their own. My mind was clear. Something was decided. I looked at myself in the mirror. There were bags under my eyes, but I could still see that old fire in them. I made breakfast like every day for Graham and Olivia, but this time, I didn't sit to eat. Instead, I walked straight to the old box I had kept. It had some important papers, my old work documents, ID cards, and a diary. That diary held everything I had ever felt, all the words I never said. I picked it up and started reading. Every page was my silent voice. And that day, I made a promise to myself. I won't just endure, I'll act. I plugged in my old phone. It still had a few saved contacts. One name stood out, Neera Didi. She was my old colleague. We worked together at court. Strong, wise, a voice of justice. I called her. When she picked up, I simply said, Neera Didi, I need to see you. It's important. She didn't ask why. She just said, come, I'll be waiting. After I hung up for the first time in a long while, I took a breath without fear. The next morning I got ready. For the first time in a long while, I actually looked at myself while getting ready. I applied a little cream, tied my hair, and wore that gray shawl, the one my son had gifted me years ago. I took the bus and headed towards the city. My heart was a little nervous, but somewhere inside, there was a quiet kind of courage too. Neera Didi's house was in the older part of the city, a small place but filled with warmth and care. The moment she opened the door, she hugged me tight. You're still the same, Mary, she said softly. Just look a little tired. I didn't speak, but slowly the words started to flow. I told her everything, how I was ignored in that house, how I had no place left, how I felt invisible. She listened, without interrupting, without judging, and then she gently held my hand and said, you're not going to suffer like this anymore. You have legal knowledge, you have strength. All you need now is one opportunity. I asked, opportunity for what? She smiled and said, for yourself. Then she handed me a file. It had the name of a small legal support group, a place that helps women like me, who feel lost, forgotten. You go there, she said. Start helping others, and slowly, you'll heal yourself too. I held that file in my hands, and for the first time in years I smiled, truly smiled. After so long, I didn't feel like just a mom or a nurse. I felt like Mary again. That night, I tried to sleep early, but sleep was nowhere to be found. The cold walls of the garage, the loneliness, it all echoed inside me. And then I remembered something. A smartwatch. My granddaughter Anna had gifted it to me once. Grandma, this is a smartwatch, she'd said. If you ever feel unsafe, just tap it 3 times. It'll start recording everything back. Then I thought it was just a toy, but that night, it became my biggest strength. I wore the watch and gently tapped it 3 times. A faint beep, a red light blinked, It meant recording had begun. I kept calm and quietly sat next to the wall, the one where the voices always came from. And just like always, I heard Graham's voice from the other side. She's easy to keep around. She doesn't ask anything, just does whatever needs to be done. Then Olivia's voice came through. Sometimes I wish she'd just quietly go away. No papers, no drama. My hands started trembling again. But this time there was no fear, just strength. I recorded everything, every word, every insult, every moment of cruelty. Later that night, when the house went silent, I opened my old diary. Inside it, I wrote one name, Ananya, my former colleague, now a lawyer. The next morning I called her. "Mary," she said, surprised. "After all these years?" I said only one thing. "I need your help." And without a pause she replied, "You've called the right person." I sent her the recordings. She listened, and then she said, "This isn't just emotional abuse, Mary. This is a legal violation. And now this fight isn't yours alone." That night, for the first time, I felt no fear, only power. It was just the truth. And now that truth had been recorded. The next morning I woke up early. There was a new energy inside me. I picked up my phone and called Ananya. She said, "Mary, come to the office today. We'll talk everything through." I got ready quickly and caught the bus. Even in the middle of the city crowd, I didn't feel alone anymore. Ananya's office was in an old building, but inside it was calm and professional. When she saw me, she smiled and said, "Sit, let's begin your case." I told her everything in detail. She listened to every recording carefully. Then she said, "We'll present all of this in court. We'll also file a case for mental harassment." I felt a little nervous. "Will it be easy?" I asked. "No," she said, "but it'll be right." She asked for all my documents, my marriage certificate, property papers, medical records. I slowly took them out one by one. Each paper felt like a chapter of my life. When everything was ready, she said, "Now we'll send a notice, and soon we'll see them in court." I took a deep breath. It wasn't fear. It was the first step of courage. 3 days later, a letter arrived by post, a plain, white envelope, with Ananya's law firm logo on the front. Olivia opened the door. The moment she saw the envelope, her face dropped. She didn't give it to me. She took it straight into her room. I didn't say a word. A few hours later, I heard voices from the living room, anxious, raised voices. Graham's voice. "What do you mean a case? Who filed it?" Olivia replied, "Mom did. It's a mental harassment case, and she's included all the recordings too." I stood quietly by the kitchen door, didn't move, didn't speak. Then I heard Graham again. "Talk to her. It's not too late. She can still take the case back." But I wasn't going to back down anymore. That evening, Olivia came to me. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of fear. She asked softly, "Are you really going to do this?" For the first time, I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Yes, I am. This isn't just for me. It's for all the women who stay silent every day." She didn't say anything, just stood there for a moment, and quietly walked away. That night, I opened my diary again. This time I wrote, "The first answer has come. Now it's my move." Olivia spoke to me less now. If she needed something, she would talk to Graham directly. In the house, I was just a background sound. The clinking of plates, the whistle of the kettle, the soft shuffle of my footsteps. One evening, Graham's health suddenly dipped. I rushed into his room. Olivia was already there. When she saw me, she said, "It's okay. We'll handle it." I stopped. After all these years together, now I was just someone waiting at the door. That night I called Ananya. I said, "It's time to move forward. I'm ready." She replied, "All right, now we'll send them an official legal notice." I hung up and turned off the light. In the darkness of the garage, there was no fear anymore, only strength. It was just a quiet wait, like the silence before a storm. The next morning the doorbell rang early. I opened the door. A man stood there. He handed me a paper and said, "Court summons. Please sign." Olivia was watching from a distance. Her face turned pale. Graham put on his glasses, read the paper and snapped, "What is all this, Mary?" I looked into his eyes and calmly said, "I'm just telling the truth. The whole day the house stayed silent. No one spoke to me, but I wasn't afraid of that silence anymore. In the evening Ananya called. She said, "We've got the court date. The first hearing is in 2 weeks. I asked, "Will I have to speak there?" She replied, "Just the truth, and your truth is powerful." I wrote in my diary, "The storm has begun, but I'm ready." Court day arrived. I woke up early, wore a simple beige cardigan and navy trousers, comfortable and neat, and packed all my documents into my bag. As I sat on the bus my hands were shaking, but my heart felt strong. Ananya was already at the court. When she saw me she smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm right here with you." Standing in front of the judge it felt different. Graham and Olivia were there too, but they didn't look me in the eyes. The judge said, "Ms. Mary, would you like to speak?" I took a deep breath, lifted my chin and said, "I treated that house like my home, treated them as family. But when humiliation becomes a daily routine, silence becomes injustice. I didn't break my silence. I asked for justice." There was a moment of absolute stillness in the courtroom. Then the judge said, "Your statement has been recorded." As we stepped out, Ananya placed a hand on my shoulder. "You've taken a big step today." I looked up at the sky. The sun was gently breaking through the clouds, as if something inside me had cleared too. The days after court were calm. The house was the same. The walls were the same. The silence was still there. But inside me, something had shifted. I wasn't just a caretaker anymore. I was a voice. One morning while making tea, Graham softly said, "Don't add sugar." For the first time I just nodded. Quietly, Olivia entered the kitchen. She didn't say anything either. She just looked at me, like she was seeing someone new. Sometimes change doesn't scream. It arrives in silence. I slowly began pulling out my old books from a box in the garage, and I started reading again. One day Neera Didi called. "Are you okay?" I smiled and said, "Yes, I'm finally okay. I'm feeling things now that I had buried for years." The garage wasn't just a room anymore. It had become my space, my mind, my world, my freedom. I wrote in my diary, "The house hasn't changed. The people haven't either. But I'm no longer the woman who suffered in silence. I finally know who I am." That evening it was raining. I sat inside the garage reading a book. It was cold outside, but inside me there was a quiet warmth like hope. Suddenly, Olivia appeared at the door. She was holding a cup of tea. She said, "This is for you." I looked at her. Her face was unreadable. Maybe regret, maybe just exhaustion. I took the cup. We sat in silence. Then she softly said, "Maybe we didn't really understand you." I didn't reply, just gave a faint smile. Then she asked, "If we want to change now, is it too late?" I said, "Even if change comes late, it still matters, if it's real." She nodded gently and walked away. That day, for the first time, it felt like the air had shifted. Justice doesn't always come from the courtroom. Sometimes it comes through relationships if people truly want to change. I wrote in my diary, "For the first time someone walked toward me with a cup of tea. Maybe this is a beginning." I hadn't touched that old trunk in my closet for years. Today suddenly I felt like opening it. Inside were old photographs, a few letters, and my law school certificate, the one I once proudly hung on the wall. One letter was from my mother. She had written, "Even when we women are silent, our souls speak. Someone just has to know how to listen." I pressed that letter to my chest and closed my eyes, as if she was placing her hand gently on my head. Olivia saw me looking through the box and asked, "What's all this?" I said, "My past. The part one locked away." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Maybe we need to try understanding your present." I smiled softly. Maybe. That day, I pasted my mother's letter into my diary, and below it I wrote, "Ma is still with me, in my voice, in my choices." That morning, I opened the garage window and looked outside. New leaves had sprouted on the tree, as if even the season wanted to say something new. Olivia came in holding 2 mugs. "One's for you," she said, sitting beside me. We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked quietly, "Did you ever want an apology?" I looked at her and shook my head. "No, I just wanted understanding, and a little space." She smiled, perhaps for the first time without any guard. We sipped our tea together. Nothing dramatic happened, no big emotional turn, just two women, slowly starting to understand each other. Maybe this is what real change looks like. Small moments, genuine intentions. That evening I wrote in my diary. For the first time I saw Olivia smile. Maybe, this house is starting to feel like mine too. That day I woke up early. When I opened the garage door, the breeze felt different, fresh, clean, like a new beginning. Olivia was watering the plants in the garden. She looked up, smiled and said, "Good morning, Mom." That one word touched my heart. Mom. No sarcasm. No hesitation. I gently replied, "Good morning, dear." I made tea, 2 cups. One for her, one for me. We sat on the front porch steps and drank our tea together. No words. Just together. Sometimes the most important conversations happen without speaking at all. I noticed that old chair? No one sits in it anymore. Now it's just a chair. And I no longer needed to find my place. I had found it. I wrote in my diary. For the first time it truly feels like this house is mine too. Today the house wasn't silent. It was peaceful. Olivia had gone to work. Graham was in his room. I sat on the porch with my favorite tea. In my hands, that same diary. My companion through the entire journey. I flipped to the first page. Slowly read through everything, the silence on my birthday, the cold tea, the lonely nights in the garage, and then the moments where I chose to speak for myself. I'm not afraid anymore. I don't stay quiet anymore. I no longer need my identity in a chair, or a room, or a relationship. I found myself. Now, I am whole. I opened the last page of my diary and wrote, "I'm not just surviving anymore. Now I'm living."